Do you love God? Most of us, that are believers would say yes. But how much? With everything? Are you sure? Jesus said, love God completely. Good morning and welcome to 755 Live. For about 5 minutes, you will hear all about easy to remember soundbite versions of what Jesus said. And the point is to help you experience life to the fullest, the Jesus way. Today's Jesus said comes from Matthew 22, verses 37 through 38. And we'll be reading from the New Living Translation today. Jesus replied, "You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment." Now that is easy to say that we love God. In fact, the Today Church vision, the church that I pastor, is love God, love people, make disciples. But actually, loving God is so much more than words. Jesus was responding here to an inquiry about, what's the greatest rule, the most needed commandment, and he's saying, love God with everything. But that's more than just a statement, and that's more than just a feeling or an emotion. If we answer the question, do we have love? Got love, like got milk? Our actions show what we really love, not just our words, not just our emotions. It's our actions. 1 John 5, 1 through 3 says, "Everyone who believes that Jesus is the Christ has become a child of God. And everyone who loves the Father loves his children too." And before we go on to the second verse there, this is an all-encompassing principle. Everyone that believes in Jesus, that he is Lord, that he is Messiah, has become a child of God. And everyone who loves the Father loves his children too. We say all the time, there's no such thing as a Lone Ranger disciple. Our love for God is displayed in our love for people and for his children. Verse 2 says, we know we love God's children if we love God and obey his commandments. That's how we know. And verse 3 explains to us what loving God means. Loving God means keeping his commandments. And his commandments are not burdensome. Loving God means keeping his commandments. And Jesus said to love God completely. Well, you can't love God and not love people. You can't love God and not keep his commandments. In fact, the Bible says that if we know to do good and don't do it, that is sin. And how are we supposed to deal with sin? Well, Paul talks about this in Romans 8, 6 through 9. He says, "So letting your sinful nature control your mind leads to death, but letting the Spirit control your mind leads to life and peace. For the sinful nature is always hostile to God. It never did obey God's laws, and it never will. That's why those who are still under the control of their sinful nature can never please God." We were just talking earlier this morning for early morning prayer about how cheap grace is like that. And letting our sinful nature control us leads to death. But if we love God, let's go on to verse 9. "But you are not controlled by your sinful nature. You are controlled by the Spirit, if you have the Spirit of God living in you. And remember that those who do not have the Spirit of Christ living in them do not belong to him at all." That's pretty tough stuff. But literally what it's saying here is our actions show what we are controlled by. If we're controlled by our sinful nature, then we don't belong to Jesus at all. But if we're controlled by the Spirit, and we have the Spirit of God living in us, then we can truly love God completely through our love for others and in our obedience to God. Jesus said that we should love God completely. How can you put that into action today? Thank you so much for listening. If this is meaningful to you, it really does mean a lot when you like it, when you share it, when you comment. Really appreciate you. I hope that you have an amazing day, and I hope this time together has helped you live life to the fullest, the Jesus way. And remember, follow Jesus today. Love first.